Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the 2nd of April. And we'll get into the 1st of April and what I found out about it. But, while we're looking at some gameplay of Helldivers, I'm just going to clue you in on some old news becoming new again, as the title suggests. Old news becoming new again. I mean, I've been doing a lot of research since 2015, it being 2024 now. I haven't, I'm not going to say completed a lot of research. I'm going to say that I've intertwined a lot of my research with, this and that. And while I was going over some of my old research, Russia decides to drop a bombshell on the world. It's not really a bombshell at all. That's old news becoming new again. So what I mean by that is Russia breaks out their old paintings that they kept in a vault, dusted them off, and it's like, hey, check this out, your secret's out. Jesus was black. The Jews in Jesus's time were black. They were darker complexioned. Black ain't even a word. They're darker complexioned people. Reminiscent of Africans, as they call them, because the indigenous people were dark as well. In the words of Columbus, not unlike the Ethiopians, how they say it, right? And that's straight from when Columbus landed on here and seen the indigenous people. Matter of fact, one of the English-speaking indigenous people met him on the shore, saying, "Hey, how are you?" I speak English. I speak your language. We've known about you. Yeah. And you're not gonna survive here. So the indigenous people helping the criminals, because we all know he didn't find anything. We all know that Columbus didn't find anything, but he was shown things. And decided to rob the people who showed him things blind and murk them and use what will he use, chicken pox? Did he he I mean, yeah, the guy got help from people, and first thing he does is try and murk the people and take their land after learning how to use their land. Oh, goodness gracious. Every body part flung off. But it's for real though, real deal, man. And like even in what I call the Book of Chains, the Holy Bible, I'm gonna use it as that title that they use, the Holy Bible. It's not the first. We all know that thing was constructed by the Council of Fire, the Council of Nicaea, with what was that? Emperor Constantine turned Pope Constantine. We all know that they wrote it to help keep control over the Roman Empire. Now, when you trying to control a people, when you're trying to have one rule for a large group, the one thing you want to do is want to have some of the things they're used to in there, so the transition won't be as abrupt, so it won't feel like it's new and different, and you won't get much resistance if we doing the same thing y'all doing. So go on, yeah. So they was like, yeah, let's bring in some of their religious stuff, because we can't have them practicing their religion. They gotta practice our religion. So what we gonna do is we gonna what are they celebrating right now? They celebrating what just passed, the festival of Ishtar. I know most of y'all ain't never heard of Ishtar. But Easter, that's where you get that. The festival of Ishtar, was that the fertilization festival, or the baby making festival? Yeah. Orgies. Yeah. That's what. Yeah, all the debauchery. Yeah. I bet you was wondering what the eggs was. Of eggs, they had nothing to do with the resurrection, huh? No, eggs got to do with babies and lineage. It's got to deal with that. It ain't got to do nothing with the resurrection, and it don't have nothing to do with Christ at all. And the word Christ, while we own it, right quick, let's drop a little pin note. There's going to be a lot of information in this video, just to let you know. Let's drop a pin right quick in the word Christ. Christ is actually obtainable once you say the entire phrase that they were talking about. It's not the return. See, that's the one thing that they got wrong in the entire Bible story, the entire Jesus story. And we're going to get to that name in a minute. But the entire story, they keep saying that Jesus said he was coming back. He never said he was coming back. He was glad to be gone. He couldn't wait to leave. He was never coming back. Matter of fact, he said that if I leave here, I'll go to my father's. You feel me? I'm going in other Gnostic texts. It says he's going back to going to the immortal realm of Barbelo. And I know none of y'all know nothing about that. We'll probably have to do a whole nother series on realm of Barbelo. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Oh, you might. And if you know something about Barbelo, realm of Barbelo, yo, you informed. Put it in the comments. But yep. What was I talking about? What we on? Well, let's get back. We're gonna jump back to Ishtar, the festival of Ishtar, or Easter. They was the Romans were like, we're gonna bring in some of the stuff that they do, because if you notice reading the Bible, it's all about human sacrifice and cannibalism. It really is. If you have any of my claiming Christians out there, have y'all read the book of Deuteronomy in your book, in the Holy Bible? Have you read that book? The book of Deuteronomy? That's where the Bible hides all its skeletons. That's where the skeletons are buried. That's where the bones are. That's where the hidden truth really is. Where they show you what the world of that generation really was. It wasn't like they said, portraying it to be. Not at all. It was a warring realm. Matter of fact, the whole. All right, let me tell you guys this. Let me just tell you guys this out front. You can research it yourself. Don't believe a word I say. Don't believe a single word I say. Look it up. Research it. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, look up the Ethiopian Bible, the very first Bible, the very first practicing Christians, well before anybody in the world were Christians. Ethiopia was Christians, and their Bible and their people will tell you that Jesus Christ of Nazareth, that you say, that you claim Jesus Christ, was never crucified on a cross. As in fact, in the Ethiopian text, Jesus got married, had kids. Matter of fact, in the what seminary is that? The what school is that? Yale, Harvard Seminary. In the Harvard Seminary, they got a book of the Gospel of Jesus' wife in Harvard. Now, why ain't every church in America and everybody in America know about that? If it's in Harvard Monastery. Oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord. You see him? He just went up there and started getting him. I'm at a little off topic. Got excited. But so they been knew that this Jesus character in the in history was multifaceted. There were more than one story. There was a story of the man, the character, Jesus of Nazareth, and there was the actual man, the actual being. Now, I'm gonna bring it back to the actual being of this the who the character was made of, who the character was meant to portray. The actual being that lived on Earth, had a mom, was birthed by in vitro fertilization. Back then they called it virgin births. We call it contraceptive. We call it test tube babies. You know, they had it back then. You know, ain't nothing new under the sun. As a matter of fact, they had electric bulbs back then. They used the wireless electricity back then. Now, let me blow your mind right quick. The pyramids we have all over this planet. Now you look back in the history and you see the designs of some of the places back in the day, like Urus, first civilizations like Kemet. They had pyramids, and near every pyramid would be obelisks. We got an obelisk to this day, but it ain't doing what its function is. Our obelisk that we have in the U.S. right now is the Lincoln Memorial. That's our obelisk that we have right now. Goodness gracious, two of them, they on fire. I had to do something. I'm distracted. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, the obelisks were used to attract some of they would have these I forget what they call those things, converters, and the converters would get the energy out of the air, just like that ship that extracts the carbon from the water and hydrogen from the water, and extracts that and runs on hydrogen. Good Lord, these fire tornadoes, they doing their work, ain't they? But you know, getting into physics and everything, trying to stay on topic. You know how hard that is for me. But that's but yeah. Back in the day, they even used cannabinoids. They would extract the CBT and the oil, cannabis oils from the cannabis back in the day. That ain't a new thing. They did that back in ancient Kemet days, which all will call as Egypt. We know was ancient Kemet. The names were changed to to protect the guilty. You know. Thing was tripping for a second. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to this story. There is so much information to this story. But no, like I said, we're bringing it back. Let's bring it back to the name, the actual being. Now we're back. Okay, we're back. The actual being, person that y'all call Jesus Christ, you know, is JC. We'll call him. Well, if you look back in the history in the alphabet, the letter J wasn't even invented or created until 100 to 300 AD. That's ABCE, after current ACE, after current era, or after his death, because that's what the calendar was made from, the birth and death of Jesus, right? Well, so if the letter J, the first letter of his name, wasn't created until 100 years after his death to 300 years after the guy died, it would mean that throughout his entire life, they never called him that. They would have had to call him Jesus, because J wasn't invented yet. So how he gonna be called a name that wasn't even invented yet? It's not even his name. He'd tell you himself, who is that guy? What are you talking about? and and everybody pronounces it a little different. But the actual name of who is Jesus Christ. His actual name would be Yahshua. And Yahshua moved with his mom to Kemet to learn the ancient mysteries went to the ancient mystery schools in Kemet to learn and to actually he went lots of places after 12 because when the Bible stopped following him and cut off them years, they were closely related to his tutelage. And how you gonna have a savior learning from people? He's supposed to already know this stuff. So when they catch back up with him, his dad sends word for him to come back to Jerusalem. So he comes back on a donkey, with his mom's. Yeah. That Mary Magdalene that came back with the what was they call that, Good Friday, Ash Wednesday, when he came back on the donkey and they threw the leaves and stuff. He was with his mom's. That was a whole caravan. His dad sent word for them to come back. And he knew by that time. He knew he had been to the mystery schools and to in there he learned Reishi healing. That's healing with your energy. For those who don't know, he learned Qigong. That's knowing the cycles and of energy and the flow of energy within one's body. He learned some things when he left, and when he came back, he was a completely different animal. And I say the same because once I learned Qigong, once I started learning Jeet Kune Do and started practicing that's actually a form of introduced Qigong. Because that you gotta, you gotta manipulate the energy in your body. You gotta move it left to right, side to side. You know what I'm saying? Getting murked over there. And Reishi healing, and that's the manipulation and the flow of the energy, using your body as a conduit. That's a little dangerous. That's you have to have control. You have to have understanding to do that. And that's something, your boy Yahshua excelled at. Now, knowing all of this, the question I came to was, who did he go and learn from? Who taught him Qigong? Who taught him Reishi? Who taught Yeshua all these things? Because the mystery school he went to, it's about invitation only. Yeah, you can't. That ain't like that. That's more than a HBCU. He got invited to learn those things because they knew who he was. They knew his lineage. And not only that, once you research the virgin births in history, what they call virgin births, they're really test tube babies. They're really in vitro fertilization to continue on a specific bloodline, and an important bloodline. I believe nowadays they call that bloodline the Merovingian bloodline, Yeshua's bloodline on earth right now. But it all reaches back, even further back. And we gon' but before we get there, because this is about history, about how old news is becoming new again. We all know that back in the day, everybody was darker skinned. You couldn't. It was far and few in between because all the what we call Caucasian people were still in the Caucasus Mountains, in the mountains of Caucasus. It's history, man. I'm just stating facts, stating history here. Matter of fact, the whole Holy Bible, quote unquote, that whole thing is the documentation in the history of the Caucasus people, what they call the generation of Isis. I mean, in the history books, because it don't begin at the beginning, at the very beginning. It mentions the beginning, how, the heavens and the earth were created and swirled and all of that. Actually, that's nice metaphor to explain what the people were going through. Just like they were explaining the Noah and the flood. It's not really what happened. You really want to know what happened in the actual flood? Well, one of the many on this earth, because there's been a few. But what happened on that last flood? You want to read the Epic of Gilgamesh from old tablets. These are all the old tablets, 45, 65,000 years old. Some in the millennials. Oh, yeah, a couple of them in the millennials, but you definitely want to read the tablets, and because the tablets they portray what history, what because you couldn't be just anybody scribing a tablet. You had to know cuneiform text. You had to know how to bake that text into clay and let it sit. Had to curate it. You had to know how to make clay for one. You had to know how to have a means to bake clay for one. Two, you had to know cuneiform text. For three, you had to scribe it. There was a lot went on to making. It's a labor of love making those tablets. They really were. You had to be a very skilled person to do so. You had to know multiple languages and translate those languages into cuneiform text. You had to have a story. That means you had to take dictation, notation. Yeah, there were things you had to do. You had to be ready. So wasn't no slaves, no uneducated slaves or uneducated people just making no tablets like that. Which means that they had to try and preserve those tablets. Those tablets got information that needed to not only be preserved, but needed to be kept. Yeah, well, I guess preserved is right. They had to be that way. And that's a labor of love. It really is. So when you look at what's written on those texts, it's a story that needed to be preserved, that needed to be kept. There are details in there, truths in there that needed to be, passed on for importance, for posterity. They ain't trying to pass on lies. This is why most people call the Bible, or the Holy Bible, quote unquote, a remix. And it is. It's a collection of stories from these tablets and from these older stories, like Jesus walking on the water is an older story from an older Samaritan tablet of a walking man. The Noah and the whale, older story, Tower of Babylon, older story. Matter of fact, most of them, going back into Genesis, the word Genesis actually translates to generations of Isis. That means the Isis generations are the children of Isis. It means it's telling a story of a particular people, new group of people. And I'm going to leave you with this. Like I said, look it up. In the Samaritan, you can look this up specifically in the Samaritan tablets. I'm sure you can look up in the Epic of Adapa and the Epic of Gilgamesh. No, this next bit is definitely going to be looked up in the Epic of Adapa. That's where I got it from, I believe. And that can bring the generation to Isis, because the Epic of Adapa and the story, Genesis story, and a lot of the stories in the Old Testament come from that Epic of Adapa, that tablet. That Adamu is what Isis called, because what she did, because what there was, it was a big war, big fight going on, and Billy Carson could tell you this better than I can, but the big war going on, At the time, they needed a worker people to ease the workload. So, like I said, in vitro fertilization, one of the ladies that there, Isis, took an egg from one of the existing hominids on the planet. Not us, but our cousins with the bigger heads. The Cro-Magnon man, they like to call them. The one seated by the Palladians, they like to call it. Took one of the eggs. Matter of fact, they had them all in kennels, outdoor kennels, in this outdoor laboratory. And you can look this up in the Epic of Adapa and that specific tablet. And they, this outdoor laboratory had guards. Now, this part sounds familiar to you because of what it's called. Now, this outdoor laboratory, they called the Garden of Eden. And it was an outdoor laboratory where they were creating or making a crossbreed, a new species, new man, a new worker to alleviate some of the work that they had going on. And they had the egg, put it in the egg, and she nursed the egg for like 10 months and then gave birth to the Adamo, the Adam, the first Adamo. And she lifts him up like the Lion King. Look, the first man I've created from my hands, mankind, meaning created by hand, a likeness. Funny, isn't it? But back to the Garden of Eden, the outdoor laboratory. One of many, by the way. There were many gardens. And the Lord of Eden, whose name, one of a couple names he went by was Satan, the Lord of Eden. And you can look that up in the tablets yourself. Was that the Adamo, the myth of the Adamo, the tablet of Adapa, the Adapa tablet specifically. And I said all that to say this. I've been going back and forth for years on how I could tell my family the truth. How I could tell people the truth. And with all this research in my back, I know it for facts. You can look it up yourself. The myth the Adamo. Myth the Adapa. 7 tablets of creation. The tablet, Epic of Gilgamesh. Look at yourself. Read them yourself. But the Lord of Eden, that outdoor laboratory with the guards that killed anybody coming and going that wasn't supposed to be. Yeah, sound familiar, don't it? The Lord of Eden name was Satan. Yeah. Had you caged in there. Like animals, had times for breeding, time for eating, time for feeding, yeah. And the snake in there, the snake was symbolic of knowledge back in the day. So when Saint Patrick, before he was a saint, cleared out the snakes, he was clearing out the oldest knowledge on the world. The snake eaters, the snake worshippers, they were the ones with all the knowledge, all the pure knowledge that couldn't be swayed, couldn't be turned. Genocide. And he became a saint, Saint Patrick. So y'all been worshiping this whole time the very being that you've been trying to run from. Satan, the Lord of Eden. Also known as Yahweh, the first and last breath. Yahweh was a war god. Duped the world. And worshiping him and his family, Marduk, centuries. Amun Ra. Amen, right?